Norman, thank you so much for, if those of you who haven't seen Norman's previous presentation on the living organization, we'll put up a link. But I have some questions to Norman Wolfe from Quantum Leaders. And I, particular, the questions I have is around, there is so many so-called soft skill consultants that they come from a beautiful heart space and obviously do a phenomenal job in developing leaders and teams and developing organizations. They're called, developmental style. What I always had problem is that while a lot of, as a manager, I had the problem that I could never correlate what they do, all this culture consultant and executive coaches, to my P&L and how it actually impacts my bottom line. Can you talk a little bit about that? How does a living organization impact my bottom line?
Yeah, that's a great question, because as I said in the presentation at the beginning and a couple of times during it, the living organization model was created because I, as a leader of organizations, wanted to achieve a better bottom line, better results, better outcomes. And I was trying to figure out how it all related. That very question you say, that you're right. There's a lot of talk about soft skills and hard skills. And, we teach a lot in the MBA schools, all of the hard skills. And now there's a big movement to counterbalance it with all the soft skills. The problem with that is it's communicating, the soft skills are more important than the hard skills. And that's why, it's not. But there is a relationship between it. It's like I showed in the previous presentation. And often I think about it as different levels of problems that require a different level of solution. So for example, as a leader, my problem clearly is what I call a level 1 problem. I got to increase revenue. I got to acquire better customers. I got to do a merger roll-up strategy. I got to improve my financials, finance structural, my capital structure. I got to improve cash flow. I mean, these are the things that as a leader, basically gets me growth.
Yeah.
Call that my level 1 problems, whatever they are. Now, to implement that, I typically need people to do that. So now I've got some dynamics about people working together and relationship stuff and communications and collaboration, so that they get behind what we got to do to get more revenue. So now I've got my level 2 problem, right? And so what do I do is I got, these people out there that's selling me level 2 solutions, right? Team building, self-managing, meeting effectiveness, communications training,
conflict resolution.
Right? So I got level 1 problem. I've got people who are going to come in and do consulting and analyze and assess and give me a set of directions, level 1 solutions, level 1 problems. Then I start discovering I got level 2 problems, which is I can't get my level 1 solutions implemented because I got relationships, so I got silos. So I bring in a set of level 2 solutions, right? And then I begin to realize, just like I showed in the video, that this thing called culture or context or mindset or whatever you want to call it, that's affecting all this other stuff. So then we bring in level 3 solution providers, which are the culture and the change agents and change management people and all of that. The problem is nobody ever pulls it all together for the CEO. One of the things we do with Quantum Leaders is we say, look, we're interested in helping you with your level 1 problem. But we also have the awareness and the knowledge and the skills to address level 2 and level 3 problems as part of the solution to your level 1 problem. But we never forget the level, excuse me for that. We never forget the level 1 problem, because that's always the focus. Otherwise, why are you hiring us? Right? And the problem with a lot of level 2 and level 3 solution providers, they're really good. Like you said, they're heart-centered. Yeah. They're really good about helping you with culture and communications and team building and self-management. But they can't tell you how it correlates to the improving revenue. They just know and believe that if you change your culture, you'll get a better outcome. We work the other way. We work from the top level down, and we only go as far down as we need to. So that's how it all correlates.
Can you give me an example? I mean, so can you give me an example of where I have a level 1 problems and you've come in and you solve, and you've gone to level 2 and level 3, and you show me the correlation.
Well, yeah, I mean, the example I used in the previous video
Right.
about flat revenues actually came out of a client situation.
Okay.
The client was a distribution company, and literally they had flat revenues for 3 years. That was the problem. So we went in and analyzed what the problem is, and we discovered that the teams had, or the sales team was really focused on processing orders, and no matter what the CEO was doing to stimulate them to behave differently. I mean, it wasn't hard for him to say, look, you not only have to process incoming orders, but you got to reach out and you got to call new customers, and you've got to, build the account, and you've got to learn how to be account manager. So you process orders, but then you also ask the question, what else is going on in your organization, and who else should I call, and these kinds of things. And the salespeople would nod their head and say, yeah, that makes sense, but keep doing the same thing over and over again, right? And so when we got in there, so that's a level 2 situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting the behaviors you need because the salespeople are behaving in a different way. And you're putting in incentives and structures and all that, but it's still not changing the behavior. So what we did was we went out and understood, so why are you behaving this way? And what you find is they feel comfortable taking orders, and the faster they take orders, the more money they make. Mm-hmm. And that hasn't gone away. The commission plan was still that way. So that old ritual was being supported. And then what we had to do was literally change the story about what made you safe and successful. We had to put some blockages into, well, if you're just an order taker, you won't be as successful as if you learn some new skills. And we began to redefine what it meant to be a salesperson within this organization. We created a new story. Now, part of that was also, one thing I did not talk in the previous video was how you actually go about doing that. But if you think about what happens to people when they make fundamental change in their context or their belief system, it's a bit of a death process. Because what I know works, makes me safe, makes me feel comfortable, makes me feel successful, is going to go away. And that's experienced by the human as a death process. And so part of it is creating a ritual of letting go, of honoring that which was, of establishing the new, of creating support rituals for new behavior patterns over time. Now, when I'm talking over time in this situation, it only took 4 or 5 months to see a turnaround.
Yeah. Did you also change? Did you change the? I mean, if did you change the way they were rewarded? Because if they're still rewarded for order taking, and you're trying to create a new story, what's the point?
I changed the commission program.
Okay.
I also had to change the CEO's mindset.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Because the CEO himself was measuring success by how many orders we were taking. Right? So he was unconsciously reinforcing the old context. He created the old context, right? When he hired the people, it's what he did when he was first on the phone. And so we had to literally change his mindset and his context, which isn't easy to do because he has a certain level of comfort about what's going to make the organization success. And so he had to learn to reorient himself and think about what's new leading indicators. We had to take him through that process as well. So changing culture for me is not a change management, culture management issue. It's about working on a specific challenge and working through the three forces: activity, relationship, and context dynamics, as we're solving the problem.
Okay, so
So we'll work with let's improve the revenue. Okay.
Mhm.
Now we'll work on let's improve inventory control or inventory management. Let's now work on making the operations side more efficient so we can handle the volume, or let's work. So we kind of iterate through an organization, and we're changing the context, which changes the culture, which changes the behaviors as part of the implementation of a specific business challenge, as opposed to coming in and doing change management. Or, I mean, we'll work on communications, we'll work on team building, we'll work on building community, we'll work on all those other things, but it's always within the context of achieving a level 1 problem.
So, and it sounds like it's not, you have to work at all three levels at the same time. So you can't just work at context. You still, you said you restructured the whole thing and had new payments. So that's activity, right? The
Yep.
restructuring was part of, and you probably did relationship work, how they communicate
Yep.
with clients and so on.
Yep.
And you did so it's always working at the three levels at the same time.
Yeah, if you don't work with all three forces, if you remember in the previous video, I talked about the force field analysis model, right? If you're not working with all the forces, something's going to get in your way, and it's going to undermine your ability to achieve the outcomes. If you learn to work with all the forces simultaneously, as you point out, and when I say simultaneous, you do a little bit of A, a little bit of R, a little bit of C, back to A, back to R, then to A again, then to C, then to A, then to R, then to C. I mean, you're just bouncing back and forth, all of them, depending on which one of those forces are either restraining or supporting. You want to highlight and strengthen the ones that are supporting and eliminate or redirect those that are restraining. But you got to work with all three simultaneously.
You're kind of adjusting, right? It's almost like a little fine tuning. It's not a huge, but it's a little fine tune here and there, right?
That's why I find it so much better to do it as a kind of an iterative loops, right?
Mm-hmm.
Work on something concrete. One, it produces nice results for the organization, and two, you fine tune the context and the relationships as you go along. You don't do it as independent pieces.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.